It's time to talk about strings. First off, let's kind of talk about strings before I get into the coding part. Strings are they're words. You know, it's like if I wanted to write a sentence, that would be a string. If I made and you can set variables equal to strings. So, you know, maybe I'll just code the thing and then we'll get back and we'll talk more about this. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about what we've got here. I've made some variables, and I have given those variables string values. Now, this is all a string. Now, I've just used a word here, the word hello, but technically I could use anything. That would still be a valid string. Still a valid string. Still a valid string. You know, still valid. Still valid string. These are all valid things. Strings just mean the things that are between these quotation marks. That's a string. Boom. That's it. It's just it's text. So I showed some examples of how the strings interact with other things, such as other strings, as well as nan, null, and the behavior of numbers when you add strings to numbers or numbers to strings in JavaScript. This is not the same for every language, but in JavaScript they behave in this way, and I will show you what this looks like when I run this. So let's take a look at that. So as you can see, I have a string that I made. This is just a string that I made. We did some of these in the integer lesson, but we didn't talk about them in the sense of variables and how to assign them to variables. But you assign them to variables the same way you assign integers to strings. So I added a regular string, just one that I made on the fly, and I added it to a variable that's a string, and as you can see it says hello world. And then I added two strings together, hello and world. I didn't put a space between them, so it's just hello world. Or maybe it's hell oo woo arld. No. Then we have hello world and a number 3. As you can see, it's a 3, and then I did a literal number as well. I did not a number. As you can see, it shows up as nan. I did a null, and it shows up as null. It's not a string, it's null. And then I added some numbers together after doing some stringing in the console.log, and you can see the numbers didn't add together. They acted as, they turned into strings, right? Now, to undo that, I'm going to make another example, and I'm going to show you. You can use order of operations to make it do arithmetic. And as you can see, arithmetic has been dealt in this case. So that's more or less how strings work. Very simple. You can see the behaviors, but let's talk about a little bit with why you would use strings and what they're for. So me personally, I find myself using strings for entering data to a server. So I'm a front-end developer, so when I'm dealing with strings, it's because we need to know something about a user, or we need to know something about an error. And so in the code, I would make a string that explains what's going on, or I would save a string that the user inputted, or anything like that, basically. You know, you want to use it for readable data. Strings are human speech. It's not computer speech. It's our way of telling the computers what we need to do by telling ourselves what to do. I don't know if that's true. Don't quote me on that. I also use strings a lot for debugging. So let's say that I'm writing code, and you might see me do this in future lessons, where I'll write some code and something won't work. Well, I'll console.log a string saying I'm in the algorithm. I'm outside the algorithm. The algorithm has ended, and I'll place them all where I know algorithm is supposed to have certain behavior, and I wait and see what happens. And depending on what responses back I get, I kind of understand where my code's having problems. You can do this in other ways, but that's just one way that you could use it. So that about covers all I want to talk about strings. So thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next episode when we'll cover booleans, and I'll talk a little bit about undefined, and then we'll move on to doing things like if statements and for loops and all sorts of, highbrow coding stuff, you know what I mean? I'll see you guys next time.